Lastly, I mean, I know this is kind of a dark subject, but I know you lost your mom in 2015 to cancer.
Yeah.
And I know it's been...
No, not to cancer.
No?
No. Also, I appreciate that, but not dark. It's not dark. I
just want to know how you deal with that, because there was a lot of dysfunction, and I know you loved your mother, and I know there was a lot of... It was tough, but do you feel like you still think about it? Do you still deal with it? Is it something that you'll always deal with, or you feel pretty good about?
No, I don't know, man. I mean, look, in the midst of all of the insanity that was my relationship with my mom, for the last 13 years or whatever, we didn't have a relationship. I attempted to help her in as many ways as I could without enabling as much as possible, which is very difficult sometimes. At one point she was basically going to go to jail or go to or be homeless, and you don't know what to do because your mother is very mentally unhealthy, very mentally and emotionally very unhealthy. And unless somebody like that sees like a really hard, hits a real wall, are they ever going to recognize that they need help? And so you're put in this weird gambit, really. It's like, well, I don't want my mom to be homeless, but I also don't want her to keep being the thing that would make her homeless, right. in her unwellness. So we danced for 13 years of trying to do the best. I was doing the best I could, but in that time, and even after when she died, I wept for 3 days super hard, and then I stopped, and I didn't cry anymore after that until I went to therapy. Not 2 years after that, thinking I had dealt with it all the time. Like I didn't, even when my mom was still alive, I would be like, I don't hate my mom. I don't hold anything against my mom. Well, I was suppressing so much shit. So if you're not metabolizing that, then you think you've dealt with it because you've done some mental gymnastics to convince yourself that you have, but you have to go feel that stuff emotionally. You got to actually feel it. And so it wasn't until I went to therapy and I, was in Connecticut those 3 weeks that totally saved my life, really. And one of my assignments was write a letter to your mom and your dad. And it took me 10 minutes just to start. I was crying so hard when I first started to write this. 10 minutes went by and I couldn't, every time the pen would go to paper, I'd be like, I can't. I mean, it was gnarls, Barkley. And then, and then finally I started writing it, and the whole front of this piece of paper was, fuck, I can't believe you did all these things to me and the girl, my sisters, and why did you do this? And you did this and you did that. And yada, yada. You're just really kind of venting and getting stuff out. And I flipped the page, and this was not even an intentional thing I was thinking to do or whatever, but I flipped the page and literally something just flipped in my mind. And all of a sudden it was empathy that poured out. And I was like,
oh, buddy.
It was just like, but I know that you did all these things because they were done to you because you were abused as a girl. You were abused as a kid. And I just recognized and that's why I think it's so important. We have to look at each other, our parents, the rest of our family, our friends, society, our worst enemies, the people that you would see as the most evil in the world, and you have to see the child in them. We have to stop and look at the child in that person that was abused, that got different programming, that came from a different world, and go, okay, you're not evil. You are just, your journey was entirely different. And maybe in your journey, you were so fucked up. You were so abused. You were taught that killing people is good, or hurting people, or stealing from people. That's why people do these things. It's not because they're monsters. It's not because they're evil. It's because they were once abused themselves. So all of a sudden, that was like the whole second half of this letter to my mom. Forgiveness. That's radical love, radical acceptance, radical forgiveness, man. It's necessary for all of us, for this world right now.
I agree with you 100%. And thank you for being so open about that.
I mean,
it's